Hi, everyone. This is episode 2 of the Writers and Wonders podcast. And we are here with Yarim, and I'm Petra. And we are writers talking about writer's life and everything related to writing and publishing. And as discussed in the last and first episode, in each episode, we are going to talk about where we are in our own writer's life with our writing process, and we are also going to discuss anything that interests us regarding writing and publishing market and books, sometimes movies related to books and TV shows. Today, we are going to discuss specifically what we find easy and what we find hard when it comes to writing. I don't know, this is where I should say everyone to, stay with us because it's going to get very interesting in a few minutes. So I'm just pretending we're like a proper show already. Maybe that's going to feel like, a good manifestation. And then we're just going to find ourselves in a Spotify studio in a year or so. So anyway, Yarim, would you want to start with where you are with your writing?
I can maybe just talk about how the week went for me. I thought it was okay. I got some good writing done. I don't know exactly in terms of like word count how much I wrote because I think as I was writing, I was also deleting. And sometimes I don't like to check the word count too frequently because I feel like that stresses me out. And sometimes I feel like that it's really more about how the story is moving along. But obviously, word count matters too. But basically, I did a lot of I reached a point during the week where I was feeling actually quite down. I think because I was writing some serious stuff. I was feeling really sad for my main character. And it was also a little funny because at some point my husband was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I just feel like really sad because like all these bad things are happening to my main character. And I just, and he was like, okay, but also, he pointed out, maybe that's a good thing because I feel moved by the storyline. So maybe one day someone else will be reading it and feel the same as well. So I thought that was interesting, I guess. Yeah. It's nice to kind of know like you feel like something is really happening, although at the same time I felt really like sensitive towards what was happening. Yeah. So in that sense it was a good week. Yeah, how about you? How is all the editing going?
So I finished editing, and now I'm going to start querying again. And I'm saying again, for those people who don't know, that I've tried querying like 2 years ago, I think, and that wasn't successful. So I'm doing it again obviously after a very significant rewrite and much editing. And I'm feeling very optimistic. Well, I felt the same before too, but this time I think I'm more confident that it's going to work. Or again, maybe I'm just trying to manifest something, but why not? There are a couple of things that I'm going to do differently this time when it comes to querying. One of the things is that I'm now using the paid plan of Query Tracker, and I'm going to check the average response time of agents. And I want to do querying in batches, reaching out to around 5 agents at a time, and maybe 2 or 3 out of those 5, I want them to be those quick responders, sorry. Maybe this way, in case they won't send me automatic responses, maybe this time I'm going to have some feedback telling me that even if they're not choosing my story, maybe I'm going to find some information there that will help me query better in the next round. Maybe I will need to edit my query letter, and hopefully it won't have anything to do with like rewriting the whole book, but just those bits of information could be helpful when it comes to further polishing my query package, and then move on to other agents. And yeah, so I think this is where I'm at right now. Very hopeful and motivated, and as I said, more confident that something good is going to happen. And I am more confident because I'm just simply more confident about my writing. And I know that this book is working
Hmm.
because I have this perspective on myself as a writer, and very much aware that the story that I had 2 years ago and queried wasn't ready yet.
Hmm.
And as I'm, reading and listening to agents mostly and editors, they all say this, that it's a very common, like a rookie mistake, that first time writers or people who at least write their first novel, they will start querying too early.
Mhm.
It doesn't apply to everyone, but it's a very common mistake because I don't know, you just feel that it's ready when it's really not. And I think that happened to me as well, but this time I've worked very hard and very long on shaping it up. So if everything is going to work out this week, I might reach out to my first agent this week,
Wow.
and maybe I'll have something to talk about regarding this in the next episode as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yep. And okay, then let's jump into today's topic, or one of our topics actually, which is, what do we find easy and hard about writing, in writing fiction? Let's specify this maybe as well.
Mhm.
So, do you want to start with the easy or the hard part?
Well, I guess, I don't know. I guess we can talk about, like, it's like, do you wanna hear the bad news or the good news first? So, I always like to hear the bad news first. I don't know if that's, like, a
Yeah.
reflection of my optimism or pessimism, but what I think for myself, what I find really hard about writing is finding that right balance of description.
Hmm.
I think that, I don't know, I think there was a time when description in novels and fiction was more widely accepted in the sense that there was like a writing style that, was layered in description that almost had like a poetic style to it, which I really like. I think there are some classic books, novels that, and I think that that has something to do with my personality as well. I like details. I'm very detail oriented. But when it comes to so when I read those details, I really like to envision like, oh, what does the room can feel like? What is happening? Like, oh, so like I feel very immersed. But at the same time, when I'm like on the flip side, when I'm the one doing the writing, I find myself probably overthinking the details, maybe spending too much time on describing things. And I know many agents talk about like making sure you're action driven, your writing is forward, prescriptive, and it's really finding that balance, which is hard for me because just by nature and also maybe like the type of work I've done before where I have to do a lot of analyzing, I'm, just kind of overthinking and then therefore overwriting. So, sometimes I'll go through like I'll write and then I'll go back and reread parts and I'm just like cutting things out because I'm like, oh, this is like too much. They
Hmm.
say like, you have to give your reader some credit. Like, your reader's not stupid. They can take parts and create the scene themselves as well. You don't have to explain everything. So, yeah, I don't know, like finding that balance, but also making it interesting and also making it like, again, part of that world, like you as the reader being able to feel in there. So,
Yes.
I find that a little challenging for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I no, I understand. This reminds me of books, like mostly older books, or
Okay.
or those classics.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think one of the good examples here is Tolkien, and
Mm,
the Lord of the Rings books, where you have, I don't know, like 50 pages of descriptions of some
right.
kind,
Right.
and but it's not working anymore. I mean, it's very nice and valuable and artistic and all the good, let's think of all the good labels here, but
Uh-huh.
in today's climate, I guess, I understand where agents and editors are coming from, like how readers want to be immersed as soon as possible in the story, and people don't have time to wait out, I don't know, like maybe 100 pages until the action or some kind of action starts.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's understandable that we're just living in a different time, but it also,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know, maybe we're watching too many, Instagram shorts and reels and things like that, so people are,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more competition for books in terms of the entertainment out there, but, I
Yes.
mean, maybe not Lord of the Rings, but for sure, like, there are classics that I love to go back to and just, like, read and reread and yeah, no, but it's true.
Also, there's a practical advice I can mention here, which is not my advice, but it's from Gina Denny. I've used her plotting structure or plotting whatever when I was rewriting my own story,
Mm,
and when I think this is where I think in one of the sort of lessons that she has on her not Substack, but I want to be helpful here and I want to mention a platform. Oh, Patreon. She has a Patreon.
mm,
And there she's describing this kind of plotting tool that she has. I think there she talks about how to nail descriptions
mm,
in a way where you're not oversharing and get lost in those details that you mentioned,
mhm,
but still give some kind of description that is informative and can be artistic as well.
mhm,
And there was this example where she's saying that maybe you have a woman who's maybe arriving to the house or the apartment of her, I think, mother-in-laws, I think. And depending on what you want to where you want to move the story and what the scene is supposed to be about. Maybe if it's a positive thing, then let's say maybe she is in a very well working, good romantic relationship with her husband. And so they are visiting the husband's parents then. And maybe she's sitting down on the sofa, and you can describe what she feels in that moment, how that sofa feels to her. And if it's like a positive
mm,
experience that you want the reader to feel,
mhm,
you will describe it as a very soft, I don't know, kind of like a fluffy, how good is it to sit down and kind of, it's almost like a floating experience when you sit down on the sofa.
mhm,
And and this way you are describing the sofa itself, and maybe you will also mention like maybe she's seeing a painting on a wall while sitting on the sofa, but you're not going around and describing every detail in the room because that's not necessary at all. And maybe if it's a negative scene, so to speak, maybe the main character here is not feeling well, then in the moment she's sitting down on that sofa, the sofa might feel very rigid and harsh, or maybe it's like sort of as if it was like prickling her skin, or, just a negative experience. And so
mhm,
this way you can use descriptions to immerse the reader,
mhm,
but without describing every single thing in the room, and also writing down not only what the character sees there, but her every thought about every detail in the room, because this is when the descriptions get very lengthy. And in all honesty, you really don't, you really don't need that. So anyway, in summary, the advice was to, for example, if you have this room situation, then just pick a few items in the room and describe how the character sees those things and what she or he feels in relation to that object, so to speak. But
mhm,
then also in a way that would actually be about more than just how she sees the sofa or what it feels. It's going to be more speaking of the other experiences that she's going through in life.
mhm,
Yeah. So just pick a few things and then maybe describe those. And I think that also works like in nature, or when a character is walking down the street, or um, so you don't have to describe every little thing. Just pick a few that seem to be the most interesting.
mhm. Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure, like, finding that, balance through the eyes of your character, which is, I think, what you're
Mm,
describing,
yeah.
makes sense. And how about you, Petra? What do you find hard,
The hard part.
when you're writing?
Yeah. So for now, what I found hard writing this first book was the fact that, well, in the beginning, I didn't notice this, but as I was more so down the line with it, I've realized it was a problem that I didn't have an outline, and I've never had an
Mm.
outline. And it's such a weird thing for me because otherwise I'm very much a planner in
Mhm.
real life when I'm not being a writer. And I think I was just going more with the flow and and describing everything and coming up with characters and writing dialogues as they came to me. And in a way, there is nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that I had to do. I think I suppose I had to do a lot more editing because of that,
Mhm.
and just many rewrites, and sometimes questioning my characters' words and choices along the line, which might happen otherwise as well, but maybe more so again
Mhm.
when you don't have an outline. So I think I'm already I have an idea for book two.
Mhm.
And I'm 100% that this time I'm going to start with an outline because I want to be helpful
Mhm.
to myself. And I really have to go differently about it this time, because I just don't want to feel lost.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
this is how I felt at times. And I think simply just having an outline, even if it's not very detailed. So I'm not yet thinking of having an outline where you outline every chapter, maybe, or every scene. Definitely
Mhm.
not. But just have an overall outline of, just where the story starts, maybe the low points, the high points, the conflict itself, and then the climax, and so those bigger plot points.
Mhm.
I want those to be outlined so I know where I'm going. Yes. So this is what's been hard for me. Need to change it for book two. Are you a plotter or penster?
Well, it's funny because I feel like you're perfectly setting me up for what is I find easy for when I'm writing. People are gonna think that we like coordinated this and it's like not just a coincidence, but actually for me the planning and the outlining part has it's like what has been the easiest for me.
Mm.
I too am a planner, and I think like I would be lost without an outline. I will say that for my first book, the way I did the outlining has been, or it was different from how I've done it now for the second book. So in the first one, I basically did like, I think like what you were saying, I didn't do a chapter by chapter outline. I did like a storyline plan where, and this was like really like old school because I obviously didn't know what I was really doing. Maybe I still don't know, but I like had a big piece of paper and I like sectioned it off into squares and I was writing like on post-its like, okay, this is how I want the story to start. This is how I want it to end. Here's like an inciting incident. Here's like a climax. Here's like, ups and downs along the way. And I think that, I mean, I don't know why I was like, let me write on Post-its and stick it on paper. Although I did recently see maybe like an Instagram reel or a story where there was some author, and I can't remember who it was, where she had like butcher paper. And on that, she had written like on like paper notes, like also like how her outlining had went. And she had like the first version of her book like that, the second version, and then I think the final version. And she had also written on. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm not the only one who there's just something about actually writing on paper where
Mhm.
it's kind of like for me, I still like to read books, like physical books.
Mhm.
Digital is like I can only sometimes do it for certain types of novels. But yeah, like the by the time I had finished that first manuscript, I was like, there was too much swapping of the post-its and like, they were falling off. I had to tape them. You cross things out, you write on top. And it just like, and it was like physically taking up so much space, right? I needed like I was on my dining table at one point and it was just covered in like papers. And I was like, why did I start this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when the second manuscript I started came along, I was like, okay, I am going to open up an Excel file and I'm actually going to write on on the computer because I understood that there would be so many changes along the way. And actually, I also saw, I think I follow, is it Jillian McAllister? And she screenshotted like one of her outlines that she had done.
Yeah.
And it was like pretty like straightforward. She had from like chapter 1 to chapter 40, broke it down. Each chapter was like a similar average number of words, and she just filled in every chapter. So one thing about planning and outlining is it's very easy, but I don't always follow it to the end, or you realize as you're writing or your story is developing that you need to change it, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
then you kind of have to make the pieces of the puzzle. But for me, like for sure, like that part is like at least easy in the sense that it's also, I think, the most fun for me because it's like you're creating the story and you're kind of putting the world in order in what might make sense for that character. Yeah, I for sure like that's the easy part, like just getting it out into however many thousands of words and also in a way that's not too descriptive or overthought details. That is
Yeah.
where sometimes it takes a different turn. So, yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because we're all different and I there are plenty of authors where I've listened to or I've read some of their interviews and they're like, "Yeah, I just like to jump feet first and start writing the story, and I like to follow, like, where the story takes me."
Yeah.
Uh,
I think I saw a video with, I think, was it Rebecca Yarros? You know, the fantasy writer or romantic writer? And I think she was talking about how she was specifically talking about how she starts writing a new book. And it wasn't with, it's not a plan, not even writing just the first chapter as it is. Has idea. This is what she said, that she always has these random ideas, which are scenes. So
mm,
just she might not even know the characters yet, but or maybe just like the beginning forms of characters, but she thinks of a scene and she writes down that scene. And then she might write another one and then another one. And then at some point she'll have enough scenes to start finding an order
hmm,
to put them in, and then we'll write everything else around those scenes. And I think she explained that she does it this way because it feels fun to her this way, because she writes these moments that interest her within that story and she's enjoying it. And so again, just to point out that we all have different processes here.
for
So
sure. But what do you find sort of easy for when you're writing?
yeah, easy is the dialogues for
Mm.
me, which again is a bit funny because I don't think I'm very good at dialogues in real life. I mean, it's it depends, of course. Like I'm good with one-on-ones and with old acquaintances and friends and that kind of thing. But meeting new people, and don't even get me started on chit chats. Like
Oh, yeah.
that genre is not working for me at all. I don't have conversation openers in my head. So those things just don't work for me. Maybe I'm getting better at those as well as I'm aging, but still not my favorite things in the world.
Wait, can I
And
just say, like, as an
yeah,
aside, like, I think you're also referring to small talk. Like,
yes,
there's this so now I live in Norway, my husband is Norwegian, but I did not grow up here, and it's funny because there are these, like, they say that maybe not everyone here is into small talk, and so I've seen, like, on, like, comedy sketches and on Instagram, like, here, like, in the US, it's like you'll talk to your neighbors, like, you go outside and it's like, "Oh, hey, Bob, like, how's it going?" But
yeah,
here, like, you're walking down the street, and if you see your neighbor, like, you, like, quickly will do something
You cross the
or
street.
hide, right? To try to avoid having like that kind of small talk. And there are these
Yeah.
guys on Instagram, I think, who make fun of Scandinavians. And like there's like one where they're walking down and they see their neighbor and they like jump into the bushes just to avoid small
Yeah.
talk. So total aside, random, but yes, dialogue.
Yes. 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 Exactly like that, I think. I mean, I'm not jumping into bushes, but yeah. And so yes, but as opposed to that, the dialogues come very easy and quickly to me when writing. I can't explain why that difference exists. I just know what they should say. Maybe it comes from my ability to overthink everything in real life. You know how when you have a conversation and then later you think back on it
Yeah,
and start thinking about, oh, I should have said this and this
right,
instead,
right.
and very much at a pro level. Yes. So maybe this is why when it comes to writing a scene or a dialogue specifically, I know what those people should say
Yeah,
because in a way I didn't say it in real life at a
right.
certain point, but now I know what they should say because
Yeah.
I'm smarter by now. Um,
So
yeah,
are we
and
gonna go back to this podcast next week and like re-say what we were supposed to
yeah,
to make clear?
maybe,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe once we get listeners, they will point out, the weird things that we're saying and how we should say it differently. I don't know. Anyway, so dialogues are easy. In fact, which is maybe sometimes also hard, is that
Mhm.
I find myself writing very lengthy dialogues sometimes, and I need to put a stop to
Sure.
it, of course, and because I don't want them to be too lengthy. And that is also related to what you said in the beginning about descriptions, that I think it's true about every element of a novel, that you don't want to go overboard with any of those elements, and you want to find a balance. And
Mm.
that is true about dialogues as well. So sometimes I have to tell myself to stop here and put an end to it because these two people can't keep talking for like the rest of the book for I don't know how many pages. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's always that like sort of moment where you're like, is it a little too much like he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she, you know? So
Oh yeah. Well, that's like a different thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
skill that you have to
Yeah. Finding those like correct
the tags and yeah. Yeah, that is something that actually I had to actively start learning about
Mhm.
like last year, I think, because before, again, it was something where I was just going with the flow. But then I realized that, oh no, like this is something that you have to learn.
Mhm.
And precisely to avoid this he said, she said
Mhm.
scenario.
Mhm.
So yeah, but once you start learning about that and once you start implementing that, I think, but just as with everything else, it's going to come easier and easier to you. So I'm already much better at it than I was even last year, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, we're all different. And we all have our different ways to get there. So that's I think what makes the creative processes interesting. Speaking of, maybe this is a good way to transition into like something happening like talk in the industry or things about books and publishing. But I noticed sort of maybe this past week or well, all the time, but I realized that I watched the trailer for Devil Wears Prada 2. And then Bridgerton season 4 came out, which I haven't seen yet because I want to binge it when all the episodes are out. And also this one of the Emily Henry books that was just made into a movie on Netflix.
yes, people we meet on
People on
vacation.
vacation, yeah. And I mean, there are, we know that a TV series for Harry Potter is currently being made.
Mhm.
There's so many books that have become movies slash series. And I found it interesting because, then it makes me think about like, have I read the books for a lot of these movies and TV series? And sometimes I think it's the age old question, like, which one was better? Was the book better? Was the movie
Mhm.
better? And also, like, does it make a difference if you've seen the movie first or if you've read the book first, right? Like, do you have sort of a greater loyalty to the first version that you've read or seen? So I don't know, like, if for any of these you've read the books. I actually watching Devil Wears Prada 2, the trailer, I was thinking about how much I really enjoyed the movie, the first one. I think, like, when it came out, it was for sure one of those ones that I could rewatch and rewatch because it always kinda left you in, like, that, like, chick flick, like, go girl, you can do anything sort of mood. And of course,
Yeah.
she was also like wanting to be a writer in the story. But I remember reading the book afterwards and just thinking, like, I don't know if I enjoyed the book as much. I don't know if like, no offense to the author or the actual book, because obviously became a huge success as well as a movie, and now they're coming up with a sequel. But yeah, I always think it's interesting because there is this universe where the two worlds sort of meet. And also there are many agents who often say, like, okay, imagine, like, what would the movie trailer for your book be?
Mhm.
Kind of to inspire you to make sure that there is, like, enough, I think, action and emotion and, all these things that make a good story as well.
Also, sometimes now I see agents sharing their manuscript wish lists, and they will just share, titles of movies and TV shows.
Yeah, like for the comps.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I think the two words are very much intertwined, um, as in, movies and TV shows and the books.
I mean, there's many that for example, like Lessons from Chemistry, I really enjoyed the book. I haven't seen the TV series yet, but sometimes like I get a little like, oh, I don't know if I want to see it because I liked the book so much.
Mm. I think my problem is sometimes that, or what disturbs me most is when there are unnecessary changes made to the movie script or the TV show script. And I think we can mention many things regarding the Harry Potter movies in this area. There are characters that are never mentioned in the movies, and plot lines are or like sometimes I think there was, I can't remember, but like somebody, like a character does something in a book, but then in the movies another character is doing that. and
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think there was something with Hermione and Dobby or something. I don't know, I can't remember specifically now, but so those kind of changes are weird to me because I don't
Uh-huh.
think they are necessary. I mean, when they leave characters out,
Mhm.
it's I'm on the fence because I understand that you cannot push everything into a movie that is
Uh-huh.
otherwise in the book, but maybe it's going to change with, this new TV show regarding the new Harry Potter TV show.
Mhm.
But otherwise, in general, this is something that disturbs me when there are unnecessary changes. Sometimes, no, actually, it's very common when the main character has a profession in a book and they change it for the movie.
Mhm.
I'm like, why did they have to change that? It doesn't seem meaningful or significant. Like,
Uh-huh.
I can't explain it. I don't know why they did it, but maybe it really worked for me in the book, and I just don't like it in the movie. Then I'm going along with it because okay, that's fine. Maybe that's not the most important bit, but still.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on the book, and then, of course, it depends
Mhm.
on the movie or the series. And I think for myself, it also depends on which one did I read or see first, and
Mhm.
also how well made something is. So, for example, I don't know if have you ever read or heard about The Wild Robot? It's actually more of, I guess, like a children's
No.
but they also made it into a movie. And I read this book with my son at the time, and I remember just like we were reading it at bedtime, and it was just like even as an adult, there are some stories that really just like touch like the human soul or the heart, and it really got to me. And there was like a part where I was like just so emotional. I think I was crying reading the book, and my son, he's like 8, he's like but he also felt very sad.
Yeah.
And then And we were very excited for the movie to come out. And when we watched it, I mean, of course, I was like, again, like crying in the movie theater. And, it's like my son and maybe my husband was there too, was looking at me like, "Oh, great, But the interesting thing was I was crying at different parts. And also they had changed sort of some of the characters. And also, like you talked about, which characters did certain things. But because I felt like the story as a book had been so well written, and then as a movie, it had also been just so well produced, like, you kind of are like, okay, like, you get it. It's an adaptation. So, like, but I enjoyed both in their own ways. But I mean, there are certain things where, like Handmaid's Tale, oh my gosh, because I watched the series and it was just like so like, oh, it was so emotionally challenging for me at times. It was so like hard for me to watch. I think I might have been pregnant at one point, and then that's like
Not a
you're,
good choice.
yeah, I just had to stop. I think I had to stop and like, come back to it like years later because I was like, I am not like able to like live this, happening to my body while watching this
Yeah.
sort of violence on or violation and violence on TV. And then I was like, I don't think I can read the book. Like, this is gonna just be like so torturous. But of course, I mean, like Margaret Atwood, like such a sort of like there, that this is like, there's also like it will be a classic, you know what I mean? If not already. So, yeah, it's really challenging, but I do like how there is this connection between the two worlds. Sometimes I imagine like I also watch a lot of Korean dramas, yay. And sometimes I imagine, especially like when it comes to, I don't want to say cheesy romance, but there are quite a bit, there's a lot of like K-pop, K-drama tropes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think like, oh, if this is like, how do I imagine this in my storyline? Or how do I imagine my book if it transferred to TV or like a screen? So
Mm.
I think that's fun for it as well. Yeah, I think that we as writers have like a certain loyalty to like books sometimes.
Yeah,
But I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
hey, like give me
And as
something
readers as well. Yeah.
as readers, and for sure, like, also, like, I mean, I can binge stuff, like, pretty well, and enjoy it, so, yeah, I thought that was, interesting, like, lots happening right now. I also see, like, a lot of sequels
Yeah.
of stories that maybe weren't sequels as a book,
Yes. Yes.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
something is definitely in the air. And what you said reminded me of how when I'm writing, I'm actually, I'm a visual person very much. And so I think when I write a scene or anything in my book, I think I'm thinking of it as if I was already like seeing it as a movie or a TV show.
Mhm.
Because I really just imagine every little detail, meaning like the colors, the shapes, what the painting would be on the wall. And even if it's then not maybe specifically mentioned in writing, but
Mm.
I think I immerse myself as a writer in that word. And I almost even imagine my characters as actors in a movie,
Yeah,
like
I do that
playing
too.
out the scene. I'm not thinking of specific actors and actresses,
I
by the
do
way.
that, actually.
You do that? Okay, okay.
Sometimes I think, like, of a specific person, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So yeah, so I think probably a lot of us do that, sort of like playing it out as a movie in your head.
Mhm,
So that's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I think I'm actually very happy that more and more books are adapted into movies and TV shows because um, I think that's also a chance for the specific book and the author to be more popular. And I see many people picking up books specifically because of the movie or the TV show that is being made.
mhm,
And for example, I think that also happened for sure with The Handmaid's Tale back in the day.
mhm,
People who maybe never even heard of Margaret Atwood, then they decided to buy the book and were
Mhm.
introduced to that author, which is very good news
Mhm.
because she's really a classic. And right now, I think it's already premiered the Wuthering Heights,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I see these social media posts about people saying that, okay, I've just bought the book, or this
Mhm.
is my first time reading this book ever. And people are so confused actually, because the movie, I've only seen the trailer so far, but the trailer at least kind of suggests that it's this grand romantic story, which it is,
Mhm.
of course, but it's very, I have to see the movie to be able to
Mhm.
tell more about this, but the book is a very complex and maybe written in a bit of a strange way,
Mhm.
and the characters are very, so there are many choices made in the book that might be, I think, unusual to today's reader, I think. Yeah, so
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to say that from one perspective, I'm really happy that then the books and the authors are getting more popular because of those movie and TV adaptations. But on the other hand, it has like this very funny effect where people are discovering those books and realizing that sometimes it's very different from the movie and they don't know where to go about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's depends on the book itself.
For sure. Like, I definitely agree to your point that it is widening sort of the book audience. And
Hmm.
also, I think giving exposure to not only authors, but like the stories that come from books. So I remember like when Crazy Rich Asians came out as a movie, like it was a huge hit. I also really enjoyed the book, Kevin Kwan. I can read one of his books like on summer holiday. Like it's kind of like for me, like some of these, like reality shows, but like in book form. And I love like kind of like the gossipy sort of detail that he goes into. But I remember like when the movie came out, it just gave this like new exposure also to, at least as like a Korean and growing up as a Korean American, like that whole culture on screen, and for people being able to find that in books. I feel like that definitely kicks off a momentum, and there's just so much more diversity that we become aware of that exists in literature as
Mm.
well, like not just on the screens. So for sure, like I definitely see, but yeah, it is also funny, like to see when you have like classics being made as new versions of movies and stuff, like Pride and Prejudice, you have like, this is one of those books that I can always reread. And you have like, I don't know if you ever saw that original BBC TV series version.
Yeah, sure. With
Yeah,
Colin
and that
Firth.
one,
Yeah.
like where Mr. Darcy in Bridget Jones' Diary, right? Like that sort of
Hmm.
funny connection, but also
Yeah.
like that was one of those series where they took it verbatim from at least the dialogue, I believe. A lot of it was taken very directly from the book.
Hmm.
And then you have later like there was this movie with Keira Knightley. And I think I heard they're making another Pride and Prejudice
Really?
movie? Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. Maybe it's another Jane Austen and I'm mixing it up, but
Yeah. Or maybe we're getting a new Austen movie in like every 10 years. I don't know.
yeah, which I mean, I'm a fan of
Yeah, sure.
the novels as well. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, lots in the book world, in our writing world, publishing, translating into other forms of entertainment. So, yeah, I think we talked about a lot today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so looking forward to next time.
Yeah. Okay. So ending episode 2 here, and let's catch up with everyone, all our listeners and watchers
Yeah.
next time in episode 3 then.
Yeah.